Welcome to this part of the tutorial where we're going to continue on where we left off with our character here who has a biped created inside of him where we went through in figure mode. We have saved or we have actually constructed the biped itself to fit within our character with the hands, fingers, feet. Everything is positioned accordingly so that we actually have a internal bone structure inside of our character. And now is the time when we're now going to start actually skinning the character, and that's where we take our mesh and we align it. We actually inform Max that the body is going to be driven by the bones underneath. And this is going to give us the control to actually animate our character. The first thing that we're going to do with our character, select on any of the biped parts, and you see that on the motion panel we get back to our character studio controls, and as you can see right here we're still in figure mode. Well, in figure mode, what I want you to do is I want you to save this file, which will save our the structure that we have created. And so if we just save this, save it here, and I've already got one saved, so I'll just do a little backup of it. And the great thing about that, now knowing there's not going to be any more changes made to the structure, we can get out of figure mode. And let's just say for the time being that I'm going to say let me go ahead and get my layers structured a little better here. As you see, our layer actually has all of our biped in there. So I'm going to select all of the biped by holding shift, and I'm going to create a new layer, and this is going to be called biped. Okay, so if we were to, I guess it would help if I actually had something selected. I did have it selected though. Oh, that was in here. Fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to hit H to do select by name, and we'll do it here again. Come all the way down, hold shift, and get all those guys. So now they're all selected, and now in our biped we can add them. So add selected objects, and as we see, we can hide them. So essentially what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and skin our mesh so that the biped bones will control it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to make these guys visible again by hitting Alt X. And what we are going to want to have is we're going to want to have our character mesh, and so we have, right now, we've got all these different pieces. And what we want is we want to have them all connected again, so we can do one turbo smooth, one skin modifier, and that will give us the ability to actually do our rigging with having the mesh all combined together. And we can do that by just simply attaching all the pieces like that. So now they are all joined back together again, and we can put one turbo smooth on it, and he's ready to roll. So now we're going to, and I'm going to set this to isoline and just turn it off for now. Okay, so now we're ready to skin, and this is going to be well, we are now at the place where we need to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to use the biped that we've created? And I'm going to go ahead and rename this mesh real quick. Okay, do we want to animate and use this this character rig we have here? Do we want to use it as biped? Do we want to use biped controls, or would we like to have normal bones controls? For example, if I wanted to create, let's say I wanted to create a circle, and this circle was actually going to drive, will be the kind of thing that I can quickly select on to move the hand. I'm pretty sure you've seen that before, different scenarios. Because then we could actually hide the arm, all these arm bones, and we can just use this to animate our character. So we have to ask ourselves, and I'm sure I'll get more into that later. But do we want to have it like this, or would we like to have it another way? And since this is not meant to be the kind of thing that we're going to use biped in our character studio, we actually want this to be bones controls. So with that being said, what we're going to do, and I'm just actually going to delete. Oh, why did that delete everything? That's weird. Okay, well anyway, we're going to select everything, and with everything selected, and notice I've hidden the mesh and there are no eyeballs, so the only thing that's in our scene is what was created with biped. And with this all selected, I'm going to go up to Tools, Snapshot, and this is going to say, do we want to snapshot a single or a range? We want a single, and the clone method we want mesh, so we hit OK. Okay, and now notice we're still selected on something, and it's biped. So I could move this out the way or even delete it, and here's the copy. But notice that even though it's named biped, we no longer have the character studio controls. It's still all linked together. Notice we have a few issues, but for the most part, the leg works, the feet work, everything works right. So what we did is we used our biped, and even though it's not a bone, it's an object that is acting like a bone, and it has the pivot points in the right place. As you can see, this is a character that is ready to be animated. So we took our biped and we allowed the ease of the creation of biped that give us the arms, the fingers, all those controls, and now we have the ability to take the rig and actually animate it as if it were bones. You might not see the benefit of this at the moment, especially if you're really new to doing animation rigs or whatever, but hope that as you progress through, you'll see that this is actually quite beneficial. So now, as we know, just like we experienced before, this center point, the diamond here, is the center of gravity, and as we see, we move the entire character. Then we have our pelvis, and we can rotate that, but notice everything is being rotated at the moment. And let's say if I go to my biped and I go into figure mode and I load our figure file, I'll move him over and we'll get out. Notice it's a little bit of a difference. The pelvis is controlling just the legs, whereas the pelvis here is controlling the whole character. So what that is letting you know is that the hierarchy is not quite the same. So we can fix this by coming into our schematic view. Okay, and I'll try to make this as big as I can. And we see, now we zoom in, this is actually showing us the hierarchy of our character. Okay, and I can see that we have biped, which is the biped 02, which is that little diamond. Okay, that's at the top of the chain, which means everything beneath it has been linked up. Okay, so the pelvis has been linked to the biped, which is fine. But notice that the spine has been linked to the pelvis. Okay, so the spine has been linked to the pelvis, and that's not really what we want to have. We don't want to have the spine linked to the pelvis. The spine should be linked directly to the biped. So all we have to do, I'll just go into wireframe, select on the biped, spine 05, and we use our link tool, and I'll just link this directly to the diamond, which is biped 02. And now we can see that our hierarchy has changed. Notice that the pelvis is now linked to the biped, which means that spine 05 can move independent. Or I'm sorry, if we did our pelvis, it can move and it's not going to do anything to the spine. Problem is, the legs need to be controlled by the spine. So again, easy fix. We just link the legs right to the pelvis like so, and we see that it updates it in our hierarchy, and we can pull these over so we can see that these are the legs are linked to the pelvis, and then here is the spine, which is all the spine, the head, the clavicles, the left clavicles, the right clavicles, and then on down to the arm bones, and then all the different fingers. And if we want to take a look at our character now, we see that the pelvis has controls, the torso has controls, and our biped 02, our diamond, controls everything. And that's really the only little tweak that we have to do when we are using biped as bones. Now we can actually progress through the process and continue on with the rigging. And I like to do this, and it doesn't matter if we do this now or later when it comes to skinning the character. I'm just going to go ahead and knock this out real quick because it really is simple. So the main thing that we want to do is when we select on our center, our biped 02, the center of gravity, and we move it down, the feet should actually stay planted on the ground. So we need inverse kinematics on our feet, and it's easy to do. We just select on the thigh, go to animation, IK solvers, and we're going to use the history independent solver. Now with that selected, you see that we're looking for something to pick, and we're going to come down, we're going to pick the foot, and that immediately created this cross, which is the IK helper. And if we pick it up on the Z, we see that the foot is bending, and we do the same thing to the other one, pick it up, we see that that's working. And if we were to come in here and pick our center of gravity, we see that the legs are bending down, but we notice the feet they're having some issues. So we need now to have control over our feet, and this is going to be a very simple thing to do as well. We see that these dummies that are at the end of our toes, well, we can actually use this to control our toe. But I actually don't think that we need it. So if we go select on the foot and do history independent solver, and let's say, I'll just show you, we pick the toe, and I'll just go ahead and do it for both of them. You don't have to do this, just watch so you can see the point. And now let's say pick out that guy, and we see as we move down, the feet are still caving in or turning in. But the good thing is we do have some control over our feet. But the problem is, let's say, if I wanted to move the toe upward, just have the toe curl upward, notice I don't really have that ability. I've got to really tweak this to keep the foot back here stationary and just have the toe come up and down. So let me undo. Let me delete this, because all I want is this. Say I want to have him tapping his toe. That's all I want, and it's not really possible the way that it just was. So I'm going to actually delete these guys, select on our foot again, and do a high solver right to the toe. Okay, so notice that I can still control the whole front of the foot, but I can still pick on the toe if I want to, and animate it, rotate it, do whatever I want to just to that. And that's the method that I prefer. So put the high solver just on the toe, we can still move it, undo, and we can still rotate it. As we see, we're still getting some dipping. And notice that when I'm doing this and I'm making an adjustment, if I move this up or do something with it, that I always undo the movement, because you always want to get it back to the shape that it was, because we positioned this to fit inside of our character mesh. And if we go and move our feet and we don't undo it, well, it's no longer lined up. So that's the point, and the thing that you want to kind of get in the habit of when you are doing the rig. If you're going to make an adjustment, that's fine, but just make an adjustment and then undo to get it back where it was, instead of making an adjustment and trying to put it back where it was. Okay, so now we've got the legs. Now we want to have the same thing with the arms. So I'm going to select on our upper arm, high solver, down to the hand. So now we can control the arm. Okay. And if we really wanted to, I kind of prefer having the ability to rotate our shoulders up and down as far as the clavicle is concerned. I prefer having rotational controls over the clavicles, so I'm going to leave that. But what we can do, as far as our spine goes, let me go into the left view, and you can see that our spine is following this curve. So I'm going to actually create me a line here, and I'm going to turn off auto grid, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm just dragging through to create a curve, and do the same thing here, and we'll come and I'll right click to end it. So we have a nice curve. You can also generate this by, when we click our spline, just go ahead and check smooth and smooth, and now all you gotta do is just click. You don't have to click and drag, and it'll create a perfectly smooth curve. So let's say I go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna click here, 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 and then there, and then right click to end it. So now there is the spline that is going to drive our spine. So if I take, let's take the base spline 05, and we're going to go to spline IK, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to click the neck, because that's the end of the spine. Okay, now we're getting our dashed line, which is telling us that it's looking for the actual spline. So I just come and click on the spline, and now you'll see a couple things have happened. Okay, one, he has his position has changed a little bit because we are now snapping right to where that spine is. Okay, so we have made a movement on our rig, and that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. So I'm going to bring out our body, and let's just see, did our hands move? Yeah, they moved a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. This is actually a pretty easy problem. The biggest thing we're going to look at right now, and Shift Z will undo your viewport change. The good thing is, with this setup, with this spline driving our spine, is we have these point helpers that we can click on, and I'll make these a little bigger. Notice I can control it by scaling or moving. Okay, or rotating. And now I can see that this guy right here isn't linked anywhere. So I'm going to undo. This guy is controlling the base of our spine, as we can see, but it's not being controlled by anything. And what are we going to do for this? Well, we've got to join it back into our chain. So I'm going to go ahead and link it right back to the diamond. And it's still not doing anything. This is still moving this one, and this is moving them both now. Okay, but what would be really nice to have, now that this is all kind of working together, as far as this guy right here controlling the spine, it would be cool if the pelvis also moved when this moves. So I'll just link this to that dummy, and now we can see that those are moving, and notice our center staying where it is. Okay, which is fine as long as you don't move the character way away. But now what I'm going to do is, I can see if I select on this and move it, all the dummies above it move. Well, what if I select on this one and I hit break? Now the one above it's not moving, it's independent. This one is still going to control those, which we might or might want. I'm going to hit unlink. Oh, I'm sorry, not that one, the one above it. Unlink, and now this one is going to move independent. And this one, hit unlink, and now this one will move independent. So now we've made an interesting little rig for our character that would be pretty fun to animate, as you can tell. can already see that just with very few movements, it's gotta be fun to animate. So that's the point of why I like doing it, because it seems like it would be fun to animate this guy, and it's pretty well controlled rig capabilities. Notice though that we've lost the ability to rotate the controls. Well, that's because we've broken the links. If we wanted to have this guy bend over, let's say, then we just select on these two and we make him bend over. Or if we want to bow or whatever. So that's the down and dirty aspect to the way that I like to approach creating a basic rig. The next thing would be to create the controls, and I'm going to turn on auto grid and draw this right here. Go in rendering and say enable in viewport, and then I want to rotate, and actually I'm going to align, and I'm going to click on our IK chain, and let's tell it to match the rotations, and we want it to align on X, Y, and Z to the pivot point. So now it is, and now I'll just rotate this like so. And if we wanted to, we could make it rectangular. The point here, it's not going to be renderable. It's just something that we're going to use to easily select when we wanted to move the arm. We're just going to click on that and we can move it. So we can set it to radial, rectangular, can make all kinds of adjustments here. It's up to you, it's your taste on how you want to handle it. So I'm going to mirror this. I'm going to copy, and we're going to copy it. Let's see. Important note there. I mirrored it. My rotation was set to local, so that's how it's going to mirror it. If I set it back to view when I mirror, notice it's actually mirroring it on the X. So now with this guy, we can align this to this one. Just hit OK, and I think it was 35 that I rotated it. Now all we have to do is take our link tool and link our IK chain to the circle, and now the circle controls the hand. And I like to do the same thing around his spines, and so I'm going to just create another circle right here like so, and I'm going to align it to this one. That's a little big, so let's bring the radius down, and I'll hold shift and copy up, and then align it to this one. And quite honestly, I even doubt. Okay, so we'll go with that, fine. So copy up another one, align it, and I'll probably make this a little thinner, maybe a little wider. Make this one that one in a little bit. Okay. And then same thing. Select and link. This guy is going to get linked here. Linked here. There. And there. So that if we came here and hid helpers, we still have control over our rig. And that's kind of the point. Really easy to select this and start to animate. The next thing I like to do is the rectangles for the feet, and probably something like that. And I will mirror. So something like that looks about right as far as his feet go. Now it is these IK handles. Well, before I link them here, I actually would like to be able to very easily pick on the ankle if I wanted to pick his foot up. So I'll use one of these. Just copy this over, align it, and maybe shrink that down a little bit. And just copy and then align. And then we do the same thing for the toe, except this time I think what I'll do, I'll copy out one of these and let's take a look at the top view. Okay, so I can see if I align that to that guy. Now let's rotate it 90, maybe like so, and then I'll just maybe pick it out like that, because the only thing that's going to happen with this, I'm never going to rotate it. The only thing I'm going to do is pick it straight up and down. So now that IK point will get linked to there. The one on the heel will get linked there. And now this circle gets linked to the rectangle. This circle gets linked to the rectangle. And what does that do? That makes the rectangle the parent of the entire foot. So when I want to move the whole foot, if I want to have him walking, there's the way to do it. I want to rotate the foot. There's how I can do it. If I want to just pick up the heel, I can. If I want to just pick up the toe, I can. And of course, I still have the ability to just rotate the toe. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Sorry, rotate. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to eyeball this one. Fair enough. So again, this IK gets linked to this circle. This IK cross gets linked to this one. And now the circles get linked to the rectangle. Oop. Undo. And that really screwed up. Undo. Why do you not want to undo? won't undo the movement. I guess just the good thing is that because we are pretty much centered on the X, we're a little bit off on the Y, but on the X we're centered. See, that whole thing got rotated. Notice how if I select on my rotate tool and I select on it with view selected and I come down here and I read, it tells me 0 zeros. This one has been rotated all crazy. Well, if I reset these to 0, they're now rotated the same way this one was. And now I can look at this guy and I'm gonna Control C, undo, Control C, and then Control V. So now they're moved up where they were. And my rotations, you can see this guy has been rotated 89, so basically 90. 90, 0 on the Y, 0 on the Y, and negative 70. And this one will be 70 since it's the opposite. So in case it happens, now you know how to fix it. And if we go in our body, we can see that right back where it was. So we'll try this again. Mirror. I'm just going to eyeball it. This guy gets linked to the circle gets linked to the rectangle, chain to the circle to the rectangle. So again, now the rectangle fully controls the foot. We have control over just the ankle, and we have control over the toe. So our guy is pretty much ready to roll. The one thing that we didn't deal with is the fingers, and I'm actually going to I guess we can knock it out real quick. The only thing that we're going to do with our fingers is we're going to IK them down to the nubs. Okay, and I can see already that there are some problems. They are not bending, and that's definitely an issue. That's the way they should be going. So what I'm going to do, just to kind of force this to happen, try to force it to happen, I'm going to rotate my fingers just a little bit in the direction I would like for them to bend. Let's pick that one. Okay, so that worked. Undo. Of course. Autosave. I really hate Max 2008. Let me bring my body out. this is actually probably gonna work out better for us anyway, because let me freeze this. The thing with our biped fingers is they're pointing straight, and Max needs to know how we're going to control the finger rotations, and as they are right now, we don't really have a direction. They're pointing straight down. Max doesn't know which way they're going to bend, so by just coming in here and rotating them just a little bit, we are forcing Max to understand which way they're going to go. So let's try this again. As we can see, it's bending the right way because we kind of pushed it along. Okay, so do the same thing. I'll just a little bit. Doesn't need to be a lot. Okay, and if you want these crosses to be smaller, just scroll down here to the gold display and we can shrink them. Let's do the same thing. Our thumb looks like it's been rotated already, so this one should work out. Okay, so that's good. So just rotate it a little bit. I'll just go ahead and do all of them. And the thumb's good, so again, notice that I'm picking the dummy, not the last tip of the finger. I was obviously just trusting that they were going to work. So I should go ahead and test them. Okie doke. Okay, so we're now at the stage where we have to fix how the spine got messed up a little bit. And I'm just going to rotate that one forward. See if take a look at my arm, my clavicle placement, how it's placed inside of the arm, the elbow, where the elbow is, the spine. And that looks like it's pretty good. I'm also looking here, and that looks to be pretty close to where it was. I guess if I really had to, I could come in here. I'm not going to worry about IK-ing this since it's just two joints. You could if you wanted to, but I'm not going to worry with it. Okay. So now I'm going to give it another look over, and I can see that this finger is not really in the center of the mesh anymore, so I'll fix that. And if we wanted to, we could make another little helper out here if we wanted to. I guess we could do another circle, or we could do a star, or any shape. We can make a sphere if we wanted to. Align that. And range, we could do anything. And just link it to the sphere. And there we go. Whoop. Okay. So I'm gonna just quickly and align, 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 and then I'll just pull them off just a little bit. Actually, I want them to be out this way. Like so. Just because this is easier to grab these guys. So now we link. Okay. So now I can use that to position finger inside the mesh correctly. And we can set this to local, and pull that out, straighten it out, and that one's pretty good. The thumb's good. Let me push it back a little bit. Something like that. Okay, and obviously do the same thing on the other side. So I'm just gonna, again, just quickly make some copies. And then once I get this moved into place, let's get this over here. Of course, we link the control to the sphere. Just want to see how far off they were. Not that it's even an issue. Okay, so that's good. So link, and I think that's all the fingers. Not sure if I did the thumb. Yeah, I did do the thumb. Alright. Alright, so we now have our character's hands, his feet. Let me hide the body real quick. And I'm going to show you just one more thing that we can do here with the hands set up the way that we have them. I'm gonna make one more copy here. I'm gonna put this as if it's like the palm right here. And let's go to hierarchy, and let's go to link info. Okay, and what we can see in here is that we have this inherit, where everything's going to inherit from its parent, all the move on all the axes, the rotations, and scales. What I want you to do is select all the spheres, and I'm going to hide all the helpers. So all the spheres out on the tips of the fingers. Okay, and with all of those, we go to our link info, and with them all selected, we lose the ability to get picky. But basically, we're going to walk through and we're going to uncheck scale on each of these guys. And you'll see why in a minute. And I'm going to make a copy of this one. And this one can have it unchecked too. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so now what's going to happen is each of our fingers, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, are going to get linked to this one. And now when I select on this guy and I scale him, all the fingers pull down. And if I wanted to move all the fingers at once, then I could. So by unchecking the inherit scale, this guy can scale, and notice it shrinks, but these guys don't. So again, we just select all those, link them, and when we scale it, they all pull inward. So it's just a little trick that we can use. The other thing that I want to do now is link this back to the hand, since this cylinder controls all the fingers. Okay, it would be nice if when we move the hand, the fingers kind of went with it a little bit. Okay, so now notice our hand has the ability to kind of rotate on its own because of the fingers. And that's just something we've got to deal with. If we wanted to, we could say we break that link. Everything's still going to be connected to it. We can link it, instead of here, we can link it right to the hand, so that when the hand rotates, so that actually looks like it's going to work out better for us, because this is not going to do anything. It's not meant to be rotated, really. It's meant to be moved like that. So just select it, break it, and then link it to the hand, and then test it. And we can still scale to close the fingers, and we are good to go. There's not really much else. I mean, there's plenty that we could still do, but I'm pretty happy with the control that we have over our character at the moment. I think this is a relatively simple rig, by no means is this as complicated as they can become. This is very simple. It's just, this is kind of like the baseline control system that I like to use for characters. I'll show you another way, maybe in the next video or before we finish the rigging section, another way that we can approach doing our fingers by using the reaction manager. But for now, I'm pretty happy with our character. The last thing that I do before I finish a rig, I'm going to make a copy of this guy. And the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller, and I want to use, because as it stands right now, let me pull this up. If I wanted to move this whole entire character, notice if I select all of them and move them, he kind of freaks out. Okay, and we have the ability to select and move like this. Okay, but notice what happens when we rotate. And if I have it set to local, it gets even worse. So when it comes to positioning our character, it would be nice if we had one control to move the entire character, and that's where this guy comes into play. So I'm going to pull this, and I'll just set this right down on the ground. And this is really just used for like initial placement of an animation or a scene or a shot or whatever, because obviously once the character is animated, you're going to have a different control system for the way that that's going to work. And actually there's one thing that we've missed, and I still don't have the ability to quickly select on this guy. So I want to go ahead and fix that right now. And let me just go ahead and break that link just in case the copy had anything on it. I'm going to change the color on this one. Maybe something orange, so it's very clearly different. Okay, and this guy is gonna get linked there. Okay, so we still have the ability to have that motion, and obviously all these. We have our hand, both hands. We have our feet. We have our center of gravity, which, as we notice, you can move this all day long and nothing's going to happen. And what will happen if we move this down? Okay, so this is telling me what? It's telling me that I have enough, that this guy that was getting to be annoying is actually pointless, because it can now move and go anywhere and nothing's following it. Therefore, but notice what happens. As soon as that's deleted, everybody does what? Freaks out. So what does that tell you? Undo. Get this guy back in there. That this little dude right here is still important. Take a look at our schematic. Okay, and there is our, so here's circle 2. So by grabbing circle 2, it says the whole entire character should move, but it's not. There's biped 2. That is apparently linked to the spine. but yet it's not. So what does that mean for us? Well, all we have to do is finish in what we know our links are going to be. We know that this was the final point, the parent of everything. So when this moved, everything else should move. And as it stands right now, this guy is the top of the stack. So if I try to do this so I can see it, this guy is linked there. I still have the ability to move, but now that moves all of him, and now we can link this here. So why is that any different than this? Just there to complete the structure of the character, of how everything's been linked together. Do we need it? No. And you know, if you wanted to not include it, then you would delete it from the beginning. One of the things that is good to have, because you still want to have control like this over your pelvis, and we see that we're getting a different motion here than this. It's a little bit different because it's going around this pivot point, and this guy is giving us an even different one. We're actually getting this motion the whole body when it works like that. So do you need it? No. If you didn't want to have it, let's say after you watch this and you want to start yours, then basically just delete that little diamond to begin with. I just like having it. It just gives me that extra little bit of control. As you see, each one of these is slightly different, and you might need that kind of control somewhere down the line. So with that said, that's pretty much the rig. Of course, the last thing is we want to link everything to this guy so that this is our placement for the character. So just take this one, and we're going to link that here. I'm going to take both of our feet, because they're going there. I'm going to take both of our hands, link them there. So now if we take a look at it, you can see everything's going except for these guys. So we take these and we link them to the cylinder, and now the cylinder becomes our placement. Now, why are the hands rotating crazy? That's interesting. Those are linked to the hands. Oh. Well. Oh, you know what? I bet it is. I'm just gonna test this real quick. Nope. Well, I don't know what to tell you about that. But even if we wanted to have them this way, still not are facing this way. I'm going to actually undo before I get too far gone from the original placement. Looks like what the issue is the spines. When this rotates, that whole spine, because of the angle that it is pulling things off, and that's what's pulling the arms out of whack. But anyway, we have a quick way to place our character, and then, like I said, once he's there, if the character happens to move away from it, it's not a real big issue. But anyway, that's the basic rig for the character, and in the next video we'll actually take a look at the scanning process and getting the bones to actually bind to the mesh so he can actually start animating. So go ahead and save our files, and I'll see you next time.